Welcome to the Kyle and Jim Fantasy Football Podcast Extraordinaire. Welcome to week 7 of the NFL season. I'm Jim over here, and on the other side is Kyle. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm doing great. Another good week. Packers won. My fantasy team won in a low-scoring affair. My other league won. Everything went swimmingly. Had some fun watching it. You and Vicky came over. We had a good time. How about you?
I had a great time. Watching the games was a lot of fun. Watching them both at the same time was interesting, but it was enjoyable because it was just nonstop action. So watching both games, like, ooh, there's always something fun to watch, even if it was taking my eyes off the Lions game for a moment. But it was only for simpler plays. You can always go back to watch the more important plays in the Packer game. So yeah, a lot of fun. My fantasy team won too this week, so feeling good about that. So
Yeah.
I can't complain. Great week for me. 7-0.
Yeah. Yeah, both those games were awesome, so there was always something going on. But football does have a lot of commercials and shit, so it's easy to it's nice to have more than one thing on to instead of just watching political ad after political ad after political ad for the
I
next
only hear about
2 or 3 weeks.
politics for so much of a day.
Yeah. Gets pretty old pretty fast. All right, should we jump right into it?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Start with the fab bet from last week, as we always do. The question was, who was the highest scoring kicker this week? Turns out Dicker the kicker, of course. So congrats to Carsons for picking him up, but not for betting on him because you didn't. Congrats to Mike for actually picking him. You have, I guess I didn't add $5 to your budget, but I will. So enjoy the extra $5, Mike. Spend it wisely. Well, for next, what's
Fab
that?
yet? Has he even spent Fab yet?
Who?
Oh yeah, he must have. He got car. Never mind. The whole car
Oh
thing.
yeah, spent a whole
Yeah.
bunch on Carr.
That's right.
He's also got that guy from the Niners. Yeah, Mike's definitely made moves. $5 will add some money to him. Yeah, for next week we'll do. We're gonna get back to the very first question that we ever did. Who's gonna be the lowest scorer this week? So I'll pick a team, shit on them, take a look over rosters. There's a lot of players injured. There are no buys this week though, if I recall correctly. But there's a lot of injuries, so there's probably some beat up teams in there that you can point your finger at, and hopefully they're the lowest.
I didn't know there was no buys. That's weird. I thought it was buys every week until the end of the season.
No, I think they randomly don't have buys this week for some stupid ass
Oh.
reason. Then they group a bunch more up next week.
I'm curious to what that is or why that is.
It's got to be money because it's the NFL, but
Yeah.
how it makes them more money, I don't really know.
Somewhere in there, they're making more money.
Yeah. There's 16 games this week. Who the hell knows? But yeah, that's the fab. Not much more to add to that part. So we'll jump right into the week 7 highlights. My first highlight, I had the Jags beat up the Patriots to kick off Sunday morning in London in the Battle of the Bums. Patriots, they look like they might be the worst team in the NFL. Maybe the Panthers are worse. I can't even tell at this point. I don't know if you have a king of the crap team. What do you think of the two?
Honestly, because of the rookie quarterback, I'd probably take the Patriots as the worst. I mean, when your head coach comes out and calls you soft, I mean, to me, that team's about to start a mutiny. And there was already talks about there being a mutiny in the locker room like 2 weeks ago. It was kind of one of those like, this might be true, it might not be true, but it's true. The team doesn't want more of it to get out there. And
Mhm.
it just seems like things keep getting worse and worse there. So if that's the case, even if they are more talented, I feel like that team's just going to kind of implode on themselves. And yeah, we're going to see a rough season for those Patriots, but I think they can stomach one.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, they've had Belichick for so long. It's a pretty big change of management, coaching, all this stuff. It'd be wild if it was this quickly and everything went to shit. But when you're used to a certain system for 20, 25, 30 years, he was there. I mean, he was there fucking ever.
It was over 20. Yeah, so I think it's
Yeah.
around 2025 somewhere in there. But yeah, it's a big change. I mean, the guy literally ran the whole team. He was their pseudo GM. He was the
Yeah.
head coach. He ran everything. So I'm sure there's a lot of changes within that building right now. So you're probably getting a lot of people who are like, man, Bill did this, but this way, this is way better. And they're going to question everything Mayo does. Like, who wants to be the follow up of someone like Bill Belichick? It's going to be bad. So I wonder if Jared Mayo was always just kind of like a fall guy anyway. They probably realized, yeah, the guy right after is probably not going to succeed. So let's just kind of throw someone out there. let us lose a couple wheat years,
Yeah.
with draft capital, and then go hire the coach that we want.
Yeah, I could see the same thing happening whenever Andy Reid finally leaves the Chiefs. He's been talking about that for a couple years, but maybe that transition will be easier because Mahomes will still be there.
Yeah, if you got
That probably
yeah,
makes
if
it a
you got
lot easier.
Mahomes, they might even if they're aware of that, they have Mahomes, they might already be grooming the next coach. I think they have that Matt Nagy from the Bears over there now. He's like a guy who'd make a
Mhm.
what an easy candidate. You can be kind of safe, and he knows the offense. He's had a head coaching job before. He seems like he would fit in for something like that.
We'll s we'll see. We'll see if we have another, midseason coach firing. I wouldn't be surprised. There's usually 2 or 3 every year, and when you got that kind of record, it's you gotta feel the axe above your neck most of the time. Next highlight, I had the Eagles. They looked shockingly good this week, or I thought shockingly good because I didn't think they've been looking that great this year. They had a big revenge game for Saquon, went over to the Giants. He just stomped them. I mean, it was his show. I don't know if they game planned to do that for him, but I believe it was the second highest rushing total he's had in his career. Um, I thought the Giants were kind of on the upswing. They were looking all right the last few weeks, but this one, I don't think the Eagles defense has looked very great. I don't know why they couldn't get anything going. They had Malik Neighbors back. That Tyrone Tracy guy was looking like a good running back, and nobody did shit on that team. I don't know what you thought about this one. I know you're a lot higher on the Eagles than I am.
I didn't get to really watch any of this game, but I mean, really, I think it just comes out to you got a different quality of two teams. A team like the Giants, their quarterback, he's pretty average. He's going to have good games and have bad games. When he has a bad game, he's probably not going to be able to move the ball very much. And I'm sure that's kind of what happened here. And plus, when you're talking about in division games, you just know the other team so well. And if there is a mismatch in skill and you know the other team so well, it can become a blowout pretty quick because you just know the weakness and you can kind of keep hammering at it. So I'm assuming that's kind of what happened here. They found something within the Giants that they've known for years, and they were able to just kind of hit it and just keep going with it. And then when you can't stop the run game, the game's going to get out of control. And like you said, Saquon had the second most yards of his career in that game. I'm sure it meant a little more to him, even though he said it didn't. But um, yeah, it's hard to keep a high scoring game on your side when the other team's just running down your throat like that.
Mhm. Yeah, it was an interesting one. I was shocked. In my pick 'em league, I would think I was the only one to pick the Giants in that game, and, I paid for it. What are you gonna do? You can't get them all right. You know there's gonna be upsets. I thought that would be one of them. Not so
Yep.
much.
You got to pick your upsets wisely, and yeah, sometimes you're going to miss them. You can't get them all right.
Yeah. Next highlight I had the Commanders led by Marcus Mariota because Jaden Daniels got hurt, I believe, in the first quarter. Just absolutely walloped the Panthers. Panthers were helpless. They had that one good game after the quarterback change, but they went right back to form of pretty much just stinking and being on the bottom. The most part surprising part about this was when Marcus Mariota came in, the Commanders didn't seem to lose a step at all. I was very surprised by this. I mean, he's kind of the same kind of quarterback. He's got legs. He can chuck it deep. Do you think Jane Daniels is all that, or you think it's just actually a really solid team going on over there?
I think they're better than people expected. They're playing better at every level. Their running game's better. The offensive line's playing better. The receivers look like they're playing better. The defense is playing way better than everyone expected. So I think they're all just playing kind of above what we thought their skill level was, but maybe it was just a coaching issue. I don't think there's anything with Marcus Mariota being like near Jaden Daniels level. I think it was just a game where the Panthers already kind of gave up when Marcus came in. Like Daniels was already they were up by like 20 points at that point. It was like in the third quarter, right?
No, it was
So
early. It was
was
very
it?
early.
I
Yeah.
thought it was. I was
It might
like,
have been
okay,
14 to
maybe
0 on a turnover or something, but
I remember it
it was
being
early
like
in the
the score
game.
was kind of lopsided, and Marcus just kind of kept the team afloat, and it looked like the Panthers just kind of mailed it in. Um, the thing I'm shocked about is the Panthers' defense being so bad. Like I thought that was going to be the thing that would keep them somewhat competitive, but they don't even have that going for them. So with the offense just being really a bunch of cast offs from other teams now, maybe an okay offensive line. That it's just that they have a hard time staying in games, and their defense can't stop anybody.
Bad teams can never have that great of defenses. I think defenses give up. It, I mean, each guy, I mean, they're still playing. They want to make a name, get a paycheck, get the next contract, but it's hard when you just know, like, no matter what we do, unless we hold them to like under 10 to where you're fucked.
Yeah. That's
It
that's a hard situation to be in when you know that your offense is never gonna amount to anything. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it saps the motivation. It would for me, and it seems to do that to teams in the NFL from what I've seen over the years. So that's it for that one. We had the Chiefs beat the 49ers in our Super Bowl rematch. Mahomes came back off bye, kept his interception streak alive. He threw 2 this week. Had to make up for that bye week. Keep the 1 a week average. He's actually tied for most interceptions in the NFL right now with Jordan Love and Gardner
That's
Minshew, I
gonna
believe.
it's gotta be
Yep,
Jordan Love.
yep, Jordan Love's in there. Yeah, it's good company to keep. Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
If you want to
hey,
tie stats with somebody, that's a good guy to tie stats with.
does
The
his
other
job.
Chiefs remain undefeated. Last team in the league to do it. I don't know how they're doing it. They just have a hodgepodge of dudes on offense. Their defense looks absolutely stellar again this year. They lost Juju this game, so another receiver down. Noah Gray, their tight end, was their leading receiver of the week. Not even Kelsey. Funny to
Yeah.
watch. I don't know what you think of it.
I mean, like I said, they have a good defense. They have a really good quarterback. So even with the interceptions, which most of them weren't even his fault, a lot of these interceptions are just bad luck, situational throws that end up in picks. But overall, they're playing to their strengths. Really good defense, one of the top probably three defenses in the league. The best
Hmm.
quarterback in the league. You keep the games close, and then you let Mahomes work his magic at the end of the game. Kind of what happened here. He had that one. He wasn't really getting it done in the passing game, so he made a crazy run for 30 plus yards that kind of was the go ahead touchdown. And it's just like Mahomes always makes the play. It doesn't matter what. If it's through his arm on the ground, he just always makes the play. He might have the most impressive season we've ever seen where he's got more interceptions and touchdowns. It's just because he hasn't been playing great, but he's playing good enough to keep them at, undefeated record. He's incredible.
Did you were we watching this game together? Did we watch
A
part of
little
it?
bit. We
Can't
watched, like, the
remember.
first quarter or 2, and then I think that's when
Okay.
Vicky and I left.
Yeah, there was one of his long runs. It wasn't a touchdown. It was on the sideline, and it's like he did that bullshit where he like stopped and like leaned out of bounds, like he's going out of bounds, and the defender just lets up, and then he takes off again, and then did it to another defender and took off again. I was like,
Yep.
man, that's sucks. Like that. I don't know what the defenders. I don't know what they're supposed to do.
I mean,
'Cause all you
that's
have to do
literally
is
why
put
it
one
happened.
one toe out of bounds, and then you smoke him, and then you're getting a 15-yard personal foul. Yeah, it's hard. I feel for the defenders and not knowing what to do in that situation.
And I'm sure they know it's Mahomes, so it's like, if you hit Mahomes, you're probably going to get fined because
Yeah,
or flagged instantly because of who he is. Like, he's basically untouchable. Like, the NFL has no interest in Mahomes missing games. He makes way too much fucking money. So, I'm sure there is a little bit of incentive to not hit him in those situations.
there was that other play where he actually ran that touchdown. I don't know if I watched this whole game. I might have just watched the highlights, but he gets the touchdown and like a safety or something tries to hit him like just as he's going into the end zone, and he
Mhm.
just shoulder checks him and lays the dude out.
That was a pretty big hit. I
It
mean,
was funny.
I saw it, I'm like, I don't know if they want him doing that though, because, like, he fucks up his shoulder. That was his throwing shoulder. Like, there
Yeah,
goes your season off of what was already going to be a touchdown. He could have just fell down, but he just wanted to get a hit in there. So you
yeah, it
love to
was
see it as a fan, but I'm sure the coach is kind of like shitting himself when he sees that.
yeah. I feel bad for the defender. Like, damn, you just got laid out by a quarterback that it's it's gonna be in a lot of highlight reels too.
Oh yeah.
Your face is gonna be all over the place. Yeah, that was that one. Next game I had down here, I had the Steelers. They had their new quarterback in town this weekend. Russell Wilson took the reins of the franchise. They played against the Jets. Jets had their fancy new wide receiver, Devontae Adams. They tried firing the coach. That didn't work. They tried getting Devontae Adams. That didn't work either. The Steelers won by quite a bit. I didn't write the score down here. I don't know what the Jets' plan is next. Rodgers has 7 picks so far this season, so he's only one behind the rest of the guys that I mentioned earlier. He's right up there with them. But for Rodgers, that's wild. That's a full season and a
He's
half
had
worth of
double digit
interceptions for him.
picks like once, right? If he's even had it once.
Oh, yeah, I mean, a lot of
That's
years he
crazy.
has like 4 to 7. Yeah, I
He's
mean,
such a risk adverse player. He's always been
yeah,
known for that. So yeah, I think he has had double digits once before this year. And it looks like he's on his way to do it again. So That's pretty crazy for a career that's lasted 20 plus years or around 20 years.
So yeah, things aren't looking good there. I don't know what Rodgers' next coaching decision is going to be over there. What he wants to do next to try to get a win.
I mean, I'll
Trade.
give him another week or two. Obviously, Devontae should know Rodgers pretty well, but there's still wait. You have to fit it in, gel it together, and see how everything works. There's still new players that are working with Devontae in the receiving core that have to kind of understand how Devontae works. Devontae has to understand how they work. Um, and the Steelers do have a really good defense. I know they went up early against the Steelers, but then the Steelers just kind of put the clamps on, and then they could not
Yeah,
move the ball. And the Steelers offense finally had like their first 30-point game in like 3 years or something. So
yeah. Led by Russell.
yeah, you look
I
good.
watched the I watched the highlights of this game. I wasn't sure if Russell Wilson was actually good. Like a lot of his throws were underthrown, kind of lucky. Like one bounced off the defender's helmet, and then Pickens just it just bounces right to where his hands are, and he catches it.
Yeah, that
The
was
other deep throw I saw was like it was way underthrown. Like Pickens had to stop, cut back, and it was not like a stop kind of route. Like that was not the intention, but and he made that one too. There was some there was a lot of luck involved from what I saw. So I'm curious what happens next week. Because one
It
game,
definitely was
it
better
was a
than
good game,
Field,
but
but yeah, I mean, that could be another thing, just kind of like the Rodgers thing. I mean, it takes some time. This is his first real live action with these receivers, so there could be some timing issues for a couple weeks. It takes teams, quarterbacks and receivers, a couple real life games to get that squared away. So maybe that's what it was. Otherwise, yeah, maybe he is having some bad throws, but for the most part, he played pretty well. The throws were maybe they were just those type of throws where he expected the receiver to come back to the ball. Maybe they weren't perfect yet, but could argue that's what they were trying to do. But
could be.
yeah, give it a couple more weeks and see. But so far, he passed, I think, most people's eye test.
Yeah. If you got Pickens, you're happy. And Pickens, I mean, he's good at making those kind of catches anyways. Like, I don't know if you ever watched like a highlight reel of Pickens, but he's got all kinds of stupid ass one handed
Oh yeah,
reaching around the dude to snatch it out of the air. Just
that's what he's good
crazy
at. Yeah,
shit.
he's incredible at it. He's
Yeah.
a basket case, but he's darn good at it. He called uh, St. Brown a slot merchant the other day because he doesn't like those type of receivers because the way he plays is outside and makes all those crazy catches. So that's his opinions like what a good receiver should be. But I guess to
Yeah.
each their own. I kind of like the more consistent guy, but Pickens he makes some higher real plays, probably more than anyone in the league, honestly.
Right now, yeah, probably. One last fun fact about this matchup is Devontae Adams got the honor of losing 2 weeks in a row to the exact same team after the trade.
Oh, I'd heard they lost the Raiders, so I didn't realize it was back to back. But yeah, it was. That's
Yep.
funny.
One of the few people that ever pull that off in the NFL, I'm assuming.
Maybe the only. That's pretty rare to do.
Yeah, I didn't look if it's ever happened before, but
Well, it
it,
probably has
it's
happened, but it's
yeah,
been a end of the season loss, and then instantly play that team in the playoffs.
that could be yeah.
But
That's way more likely.
regular season, it might be the first time.
Yeah, and then the last one I had was the Ravens on Monday night. They beat the Bucks and they beat them bad. Um, I was I was surprised by this one too. The Bucks were looking good so far this year. The Ravens have also looked great, but I didn't. I mean, now the Ravens look like they're in just a completely different class than most of the NFL. Their season started off kind of rough. I didn't know what was going on with them, but I mean, the last month they figured out their shit, and I don't know who's going to stop them. The Bucks did get pretty beat up in this game. Mike Evans got hurt early. Chris Godwin got hurt, but that was super late. I mean, that game was already well into garbage time at that point.
That
So
was
I'm
in the
not
last
gonna.
minute of the game.
Yeah, yeah. The Ravens, Derrick Henry,
I think I came
deemed
out and
it.
said I thought they were the favorites, if I wasn't picking the Lions, and I think they're starting to show what I believed in. I thought Henry was the perfect fit for that team. He complements what they want to do in the run game so well. And like, how do you choose between Lamar and Henry? And like, if it's like a quarterback keeper, like you have to make that decision. Like, that's the best running back room in the NFL when you count the quarterback. Um, the, I honestly don't know how you beat him, especially when Lamar's throwing as well as he did in this game. Like he's unstoppable when he's throwing that well. So you add that with the scariest running back we've probably had in the last 10 years. It's a combination for a lot of success, and they have a really good defense to back up the offense. So right now I think you're looking at, them as the favorites to make the Super Bowl in the AFC.
I mean, I would say. I didn't agree with you at the start of the season, but I would now. The problem is they still got to get past the Chiefs in the playoffs, and I don't know if I had to look at the two teams and say who's better, I would pick I would pick the Ravens 10 times out of 10 right now. But
They played really early, and I think the Ravens needed to kinda adjust to some new players. I think they had more turnover than the Chiefs, and I think they had to kinda learn how they wanted to run Henry. I think they had an idea, but, it took them a couple weeks to get that going. I would imagine if they played today, we'd have a completely different game. Obviously, the Chiefs have a lot of injuries too, which play into that, but I don't think the Chiefs right now are beating this Ravens team with the roster they have.
did you this game? Yeah, I watched this one. There was one play. Yeah, Lamar takes it. There was kind of like an end around to Henry. He was coming across from behind on his right, so he's kind of
Mhm.
like pitches it backwards. But then Lamar takes off in front of him, and he's like the lead blocker for the play. So he
Yeah,
blocks like two guys, and it would have been a touchdown too. But he's just, I think Lamar was kind of in the way, and Henry put one foot out of bounds along the way.
yep.
But I was like, dude, that's that's awesome. You have a quarterback just runs down there and fucking. A lot of the guys do it, but Lamar's actually like doing an actual block. A lot of quarterbacks do it, and they just kind of like dive at the first guy. I was like, yeah, that's all I could really do.
I mean, when you're down there by safeties and corners, it's a little different. They don't want to get hit by
Hmm.
those offensive linemen. If it was a big lineman or linebacker, I think he probably would save his body. But when you're running full speed with a guy backpedaling that you're blocking, it's pretty safe to block him. So uh,
True.
Jameson Williams on the Lions is known for doing that all the time because he's so fast. You'll see the running back like Montgomery for a big run, and out of nowhere, you just see Williams just go right past him and pick up the guy in front of him. It happens all the time. He's such a good blocker, but it's such a different element because he's so much faster than everyone else on the field that he can put himself in positions to give our running backs another 15, 20 yards because he takes out that one defender that can really cause a, loss or, stop the run from getting bigger. So I think that's the same thing Lamar can do because he's got that same athleticism.
Well, Jameis won't be doing it for a couple weeks, but we'll get to that later. Any other Week 7 general NFL matches you want to chat about?
The good games were the ones we're going to talk about next.
Yeah, yeah, those were the noon games were great today. We were all watching them over at our place. Very action packed, very nail biters. So that gets us into the NFC North. Yeah, there's only two matches to talk about because the Lions played the Vikings, the Bears were on bye, and the Packers played the Texans. So only two total matches. First one with the Lions, they beat the Vikings. So we had a bit of a change up in the division this week. So the Lions won with a game-winning drive slash field goal at the end of the game. Vikings got up early. They were up 10-0 at the start. Lions narrowed the gap. Both teams are kind of going back and forth for the rest of the game. Vikings gave the Lions the ball with a 1 point lead and just too much time on the clock. I think they had like 2.5 minutes. Lions went down, got far enough, got the field goal, ended the game. I mean, I can't be that mad about this. Like, I'm glad the Vikings are no longer undefeated. I didn't really want the Lions to win because I think the Lions are the scarier of the two teams. I can't be mad about it because I have to. This was our bet for the week. I put my shot on the line for the Vikings. I
Never bet
believed
against Jared Goff.
Jared Goff. God damn it.
Lion Gosling, man. He's such a beautiful man.
Honestly, if it weren't for Lamar Jackson having such an awesome season so far, I could see Goff getting that MVP. So you gotta
His
hope for
last 3 games are
you gotta hope for Lamar to fuck up though, because I think he's the favorite currently.
I think Lamar might get into a position though where it's like, can they give him another MVP when Mahomes only has one? When it's like very obvious that he's not as good as Mahomes. So he might be in that situation where like it's like, okay, we can't. They're gonna start making narratives on why he shouldn't get one. So he might be the person
True.
that deserves it, but then the narrative will make it like, oh, Goff is the or whoever it is probably not the guy who's been there before, probably in a situation that was a little bit more fun because it's something new that people haven't really seen. Like maybe like Jordan Love, if he just goes on like a tear at the end, it just might be something fun like that. That narrative might push them past Lamar winning another one, and then they have to explain why is he got 3 MVPs, no Super Bowl win, and he just gets beat by Pat Mahomes every year. So it's an interesting conversation, but honestly, Goff's last 3 games of 3 of the best quarterback games I've seen ever, and they're all in a row. Like he was
Yeah.
playing really well right now, and I would honestly say he is probably on the same level as Lamar. It's just Lamar does it more flashy. Like Goff is not flashy in any way, but he he has more, or the Lions have more touchdowns right now, 18 touchdowns in the last 3 or 4 games, I think it was. I think it's the last 3 games. It's the last 4. But 18 touchdowns to 16 incompletions.
Nice.
That's insane. Like, he has less incompletions than we have touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. So, yeah, the Lions are on all cylinders right now. I think they showed what I kinda explained last week. It was a little bit of a rocky game because they got down early, but their offensive line was too much for the Vikings, and then the other thing too is the Vikings defense, they pressure 40%, like, blitzes and stuff on the second down because they really like to pressure on that down, and the Lions decided to, what most teams do is like, oh, they know the pressure is coming, so they kinda take the flats and they take the easy, throws, and the Vikings build their team around that. They try to take that out. Well, the Lions are so good at their offensive line, they can get people over the top, and that's what they did. They just killed them over the top. They had the higher middle part of the field open all the time to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm actually surprised Laporta didn't have a bigger game because that's where he kind of eats too. And they took advantage of that, and that's why Goff played so well again. There's really like 2 plays in this game that kept it close as it was. I think it really did show the Lions were, I think, a class above the Vikings, even though I think the Vikings are probably a little better than I'm giving them credit for earlier, this year. But yeah, I think the Lions are the class of the division. We saw it.
Anything can happen. The season is young yet. But yeah, that was the bet. I'll do my shot. Cheers to the Malort. Delicious as it ever was. I also got a correction on Malort. It's not made of lingonberries at all. It's made of wormwood.
Wormwood?
Were you here when I was talking to Heebs about it.
You
Oh
said
no, yeah, you weren't
wormwood?
there. Wormwood.
Oh,
That's what gives it that better taste.
is
I
it
heard it
real
from Heebs. It was
worms or just like a
lingonberries.
term?
Wormwood. It's like a root. I believe it's like the
Oh,
root
okay,
of
that makes
something.
sense. I was wondering if it was something that had like worms like in it, like
No,
wooden
no,
worms that just like decomposed in wood. I
no,
don't
no,
know.
no, nothing like that.
Shit.
It's what they also make absinthe with the same thing. It's whatever they use
Okay.
to distill it into alcohol. I don't know. I had heard it from Heebs. Heebs is the only person I know that actually buys it to drink, and he corrected it. So I don't want the false information to spread further. So if anyone's listening, it's wormwood, not lingonberries.
Get it
You
straight,
know,
Jeeves.
yeah. The more you know. Yeah, that was one of the division games this week. The other one was the Packers beat the Texans. Pretty similar kind of game. They won 24-22. Same ending of the game essentially. The other team got up by 1. Texans got up by 1. They left the Packers with too much clock. I believe the Packers had about 1:45 left. Love went down the field. Packers got close enough. McManus, our new kicker, was actually able to make a field goal, a game-winning field goal, his only field goal on the team so far. Um, Character flaws aside, it's good to have a kicker that can make field goals on the team now. Because if that was Narvinson, I feel like that game was probably a loss, or we wouldn't have even gone for the field goal. We would have taken another couple shots at the end zone instead.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but the Packers, they turned the ball over 3 times this week. Two of them were interceptions by Love. One was a terrible special teams play where I'm sure most people in here watched it, but yeah, the punter just kind of jumped out of the way at the last second. It clipped one of the blockers on the leg on the way down. So 2 times that game, the Packers handed them the ball in the red zone. The Packers still got to win, so I'm very impressed with the Packers D. They were able to hold the score as close as it was, given all the advantages that Houston was given in that game. I looked it up. The odds of winning a game when you have a favorable turnover differential of 3 turnovers, you've got about a 10% chance to win. So the Packers overcame some pretty big odds on that one. Granted, they caused those odds to be out of their favor, but still,
Love might have to overcome that percentage multiple times this year.
it,
What he's been
it's
playing.
quite possible.
That's just his game. He's gonna be the
It's,
exception, not the rule.
I mean, after watching Rodgers for so long, I find this way more entertaining. It's
Well, he's fun to
it's just
watch, like,
fucking
good or
wild.
bad, it's a great time, like, he does crazy stuff, good and bad. He's gotta get a lot of that bad out of him, but he could be really good
Yeah,
if he does.
but like when you're watching Rodgers, like whenever he just like lines up and he arcs it high, you're like, oh shit, dude, this is gonna be a big ass play because you know there's like a dude open down there.
Yeah.
But when Love does it, I'm like, oh fucking shit, what's gonna happen now?
You could flip a coin with him. It's literally
Yeah.
50-50s. Even like his crazy touchdown pass everyone's freaking out about to the tight end. That was centimeters away from being knocked
Oh yeah.
down, an inch or two away from probably being intercepted. It's like that is the definition of like 50-50. That was just inches away from being really bad. So the cool thing I saw, I was listening to one of the podcasts I like to talk or listen to, and the guy was like they had a film junkie guy on. He was talking about this game in particular because I guess the way the Packers played the Texans offense was unique. He said like normally like your nose tackle will try to take on like two or three blockers, well, mostly two blockers, and try to suck up as much as they can. They literally put the nose tackle right on top of the center all game, and then they just had that nose tackle hit the center, and then you had your under tackle, who's normally to the right of the center if you're looking from their backside, and he would kind of chip into the center, kind of pushing them back, and then I guess it kind of just kept giving like an open rusher to the under tackle to basically get into um, the backfield like instantly. Uh, it actually worked. It's why Mixon probably had such a good game because they said like that was why the running game was working so well because it kept opening up these
Mm.
bigger lanes for Mixon. But it really, really bothered Stroud, and that's why Stroud, I don't think he even passed for more than 100 yards, right? It was like 80
No.
some odd yards.
Yep.
So they're saying like that right there was probably they showed something that the Texans might be weak at, and you might see their teams copy. And I always find that stuff fascinating, the X's and O's throughout a season, because that happens all the time. Like one team will kind of show something that beats this team, and then it's like, okay, now it's like the next team's going to do it. The next team's they need to figure out how to do it. So now it's going to be interesting to see how the Texans approach that because now they have this kink in their armor. Now you got to show the next teams that you can beat this because if you can't, well, now we just figured out what causes Stroud to
Hmm.
break down and not be able to be effective. It probably does have a little bit to do not have Nico Collins there. If you have Nico Collins, you probably can't get away with this defense as much because then Nico Collins can probably beat the coverage. But I mean, they still had Stephon Diggs. They still have a couple other good receiver options. So it really affected Stroud, and it pretty much played out like they were saying. Like the run game did work well, but the Packers' offense is so explosive and their secondary is so good that you can't just run against them. So to do that, you're going to lose pretty much 9 out of 10 times. So you need to find a way to get the passing game going.
Yeah. It was the Packers defense first time with no turnovers caused too. Kind of a bummer. I
Yeah, they've
think
been
I think
exceptional
they
here and
still lead the NFL in turnovers caused, but or turnovers recovered, I guess. Sometimes it's just a fumble that you get. That
yeah,
one not always caused, but
they had a pretty big lead already this year. I know that they've been on the positive side of that for all year, and it's been by a couple turnovers every game, it seems like.
yeah. I mean, they need to get those against the good teams. And this is one of the good teams that we didn't get any, which is unfortunate because we handed them quite a few of them. But we'll we'll see how it plays out with them. So yeah, that's the NFC North. So now we've got the Lions and the Vikings both at 5-1. Lions are actually on the top because they got the tiebreaker. They got the best divisional record, and they got the tiebreaker against the Vikings. Packers are at 5-2, so they're in third place, and the Bears are now where they finally belong in last place at 4-2 because they had a bye and couldn't get a win.
If the season ended today, all four of these teams would be in the playoffs. That's only happened one other time in NFL history, and it was in 1993. The Lions, Vikings, Packers, and Bears all made the playoffs.
Oh, really?
Yep, I looked
Nice.
it up. Um, that was when the Buccaneers were still in the division, and it was the
Oh
Central
yeah,
Division.
yeah. Before they redid
So
it.
technically, the whole division didn't make it. This will be the first time the whole division makes it if they all make it, which would be kind of cool. But yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting that we did this before.
That would be something to see. Get an extra divisional match at
Yeah,
the end of the year in the playoffs for each
probably all
team.
get to play an extra division. It'll be like the
Yeah.
Lions versus the
Fuck, you might.
Bears and the Vikings
Some of the
versus the
teams might
Packers.
get.
Probably would have
Yeah.
happened if it ended right now. Yeah.
Some teams will get 2 extra divisional games.
Oof.
Gotta win the first one to get to the next one.
And like I said, this is gonna last. The Vikings are the oldest team in this.
Yeah.
So the Lions are set up to be good for another 4 to 5 years. The Packers, if Love stays the good version of Love, will be competitive for a long time. The Bears, they just drafted their rookie quarterback and they have one of the best defenses in the league. So like all these teams have good defenses, relatively young talent on those defenses, and they all have good young quarterback options. The Lions are probably the riskiest quarterback option outside of the Vikings, just because I think Goff does need an offensive line near him. He's just not going to be the
It's such a
best player when the play breaks down. That's just where his weakness is. If you can keep him upright, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But that's obviously his downfall. So if the Lions start getting to a point where they can't keep their offensive line, then that would probably hurt them. But I would say the next 4 or 5 years, we'll say the next 3 to 4 years, the Lions will still be competitive, and I think the Packers and Bears will too. The Vikings might fall off in a couple of years, but they could all be good.
I'm curious what the Vikings do next year because they drafted JJ McCarthy.
Yep.
You know, I think a lot of people thought he would start this season with Sam Darnold doing what he's doing. I mean, if they make the playoffs and they win a playoff game, what do you have to pay Sam Darnold to stick around for another year? Or are you just going to throw JJ McCarthy in and be like, peace?
I think the way Darnold's played so far, I mean, he played well against the Lions. He did throw a pick, but the pick was Brian Branch making an incredible interception.
He's got a ton of those.
Yeah, he's got 3 in the last 2 games. I thought it was 4, but it's 3. Um, you can't look at it and say, like, he played bad. I don't see the Jets Darnold coming back, which has always been my thing I've been saying on the podcast is, like, I think he's just I know what he is. I know what he's been. But now that I've watched him a couple games, he does in the Packer game, he did look rough, but you also have to look that the Packers have done that to every quarterback they played this year. They just made CJ
True.
Stroud look like a rookie for the first time in his career. So, um, he played better against them than anyone else that I think pretty much has played him this year. I don't know, anyone else play well against you guys? Well, I guess Hurts did okay. But again, that was the first game of the
That was week
season,
one.
and
Yeah.
it was a terrible field, so I'm sure that's gonna make it harder to play defense and offense. So I'll still, like I even said back then, we'll just wipe that game out. So yeah, their defenses look stellar. So Darnold has looked the best of anyone against that defense. So there's something there. There's already talk that he might get like a $50 million like a year type contract if he keeps it up. So if that's the case, I'm sure the Vikings are the one of the team that's talking to him about it. And I think, he's young enough that they would just be like, well, whatever. If he's the guy that we think is the best quarterback, we're just going to stick with him. It's not like he's like a 32-year-old quarterback and you just want the young
Yeah.
guy. Like he's pretty young in his own way. So there's no reason to move on from him if they think he's the better option.
That's crazy. Well, I guess you trade JJ McCarthy. You're not going to sign up 4-year contract and let the dude just sit till his rookie contract expires. It
They might
doesn't.
not be able to trade him for what they want though, because like that's a hard situation. Because our team's gonna be like,
Yeah.
well, is he just awful? Because they haven't seen him, so it's a weird situation to be in for all parties. I think it's it's kind of like the Vikings are in a good position, but it's not a great position because you can make the wrong decision very easily, and it could literally alter their next 10 years of their franchise. So it's gonna be a tough decision if it does come to that, but right now Darnold's looked good enough. I think it's kind of like well, a lot of these teams, like we watch with golf, where they get to a new team, it's a better nucleus, it's a better support system, they play a lot better. He hasn't been as good as someone like Goff, but Goff was worse than what Darnold is right now in his first season with the Lions. So there's no reason to think he can't improve. And he's always been considered a raw prospect. He's got a little ability. He just needed more stability and just time to develop.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. You almost need Darnold to, well, have to be next year, I guess, but have like a minor injury and miss 3 games or something so you can
Yeah,
showcase JJ
right.
McCarthy so you can get something out of him. Otherwise, yeah, you're just going to let the rookie contract expire and let him walk, I guess.
Yep.
Someone will give him a shot. There's always 10 teams in the NFL that aren't happy with their quarterback.
That's what happened with Garoppolo, right? He had like those 3 games
Yep.
and Brady went out, and from those games he played so well that teams are willing to give like almost a first round pick for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it happens.
But he went to the Niners too, and then he played with
Yep.
Shanahan. He did well enough that he got paid more from other teams too. So yeah, we'll see. That's the NFC North. That's all I got for it. So you got any other closing comments about it?
Um, I could say something sarcastic, but I'll hold it to myself. Lions
Yeah,
are the
yeah.
best.
Go Lions. Whatever.
Hey, I get to brag for once. I haven't had this ever in my life, and now you gave me a talking platform during these good years, so I need to bask in the glory a little bit longer. It'll probably come
Yeah.
down to a crashing halt, but, I'm gonna live it while I can. I've been right so far.
Gotta enjoy it while it's there. So the next segment's a new segment. We're halfway through the fantasy football season already. Yeah. We just finished week 7. Week 14 is the end of regulation. Then it goes to the playoffs. So I'm just gonna do a way too early playoff picture. So I mean, first off, I'm gonna go over the playoffs. and just kind of go over how I place the people in the playoffs, just in case anyone wasn't clear on it, and those people happen to be listening. I feel like last year I was getting a lot of questions on Facebook and messages about why this person went to the playoffs instead of this person. And I feel like I discussed this at the draft last year and this year. I'm going to go over it again. So it starts with we have 3 divisions. The winner of each division goes to the playoffs. Doesn't matter the record. You could have a losing record. If you're the best in your division, you're going to the playoffs. As far as the buys go, the buys are exclusively going to one of those 3 people, or 2 of those 3 people, I should say. It goes to the best 2 records out of those 3. So the people that are going to get buys are going to be the best records of the 3 divisional winners. The next 2 spots are pretty straightforward. It's just the next best 2 records that aren't already in the playoffs. So it could be from any division. They could all be from the same division if it's a really tough division. So so the next 2 spots go to that. So that would put 5 people in there so far. And then the last spot goes to the highest scoring person that is not already qualified for the playoffs. So if it's, if Jim's got the highest score, but he's already in the playoffs, we go to the next highest score. If they're already in the playoffs because they had one of the best records, it goes to the next highest score. And basically, the highest score that's not already qualified goes into the playoffs. So you can have somebody with a worse record than you go into the playoffs, which is what happened last year, and I think why I got texts about it. That all makes sense, right?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. Just keep in mind that the tiebreakers for the buys is going to be points. So after the records are tied, then you go off with the top points. But I think that's pretty straightforward. The only thing really different here than everyone with the best record getting in is it's just the final spot in playoffs. Instead of going to the last best record in the league, goes to the best point total remaining.
Mm-hmm.
Which basically the reason you do this is it prevents. Sometimes you could have the best team in the league, have the most points, and I have seen this and miss the playoffs because you
Yep.
just played against the high score every week. So it just kind of makes it so the best teams all make it to the playoffs because that does happen every now and then. Kyle was in the league with me that happened with. So that ever since that's happened, we've done that in my other league, and then I think it's important to incorporate here because it just makes it feel like you're giving the best 6 teams a chance to win the playoff or win the championship.
Yep. Exactly. That's why I like to do it this way. Like you said, I think it puts generally it's going to put the best 6 teams in the playoffs.
Yep.
When the playoffs start, you might be like, "Oh, I score more than all those guys." Like, well, you had a shitty season and you didn't make the playoffs. Same shit happens in the
Also,
real NFL.
it also makes those losses near the end of the year when you are fighting and you maybe have a really good team and you're just like, oh man, like my team, like we'll use Lee for an example. His team's really hot right now,
Mhm.
but he was so screwed in the beginning of the year because he had all those injuries. But he literally has one of the best teams in the league right now. He's starting to put up crazy point totals. He might be the third highest scorer, the second highest scorer by the end of the year. And if that's the case, he could still have a bad record though, because he doesn't have many losses to give. Because he
Mhm.
basically got screwed in the beginning of the year. And then if he has a 140-point week, and then he lost to me as number 2 total, and I was number 1 week. So he should have another win right now against everyone else in the league but me that week. So it just keeps that to be a little bit more exciting for those teams too, because when you know you're still having a shot, you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm out of the playoffs already. But no, it's like, okay, you could literally make some changes in your lineup and just play a bunch of high upside guys and maybe get the point differential near the end of the year. So it gives players another thing to play for too and understand that it's available if they need to go down that road.
Yep. And I get it if you're the guy who was like, "Well, I should have made the playoffs, but this other person got in with a worse record." That's why it happened because they had more points than you. If you don't like it, we voted on this. We voted on to put this in. We think we voted again to keep it the same way this year. We can vote again next year. All you gotta do is bring it up when we're doing the voting on the rules.
I think it was just
But
confusing because it
I
was the
think
first year and no one
yeah.
really understood except for a few of us. And
Plus
I
we
think
added the divisions in the same
right.
year.
So I think if people really see it for what it is, I don't think anyone's gonna be upset. It's just you have to be in the league, I think, for a year to see it. Now everyone knows. So I hope it won't happen again that people complain, or if they did, they should have complained before we voted yes on it.
I don't think they could. I don't. Yeah, I shouldn't say. I don't think anyone complained to me. I think they were just asking why it happened. I don't think
Verification.
there was like a legit. That's bullshit. I didn't get any like attacks or anything
Okay.
seemingly
It's a good
upsetting. It's
reminder
just
though.
people were asking what happened and why this happened.
Yeah. Good reminder, and probably do the same thing next year, just to kind of have like
Hmm.
a hey, remember this is how playoffs work. So
Yeah. So all that being said, we know how the spots get awarded now. We'll just go over who would currently be in the playoffs if we were doing them today. The three division winners are Jim sits atop the Bloods, Jackie is atop the Crips, and Carson's is atop the Kings. So they'd have those first three spots locked up. Jim would get a bye as he has the best record, and Carson's would get a bye as the other best record. Or no, Carson's and Jackie have the same record, but Carson's has more points. Points is always the tiebreaker, unless points actually happen to be tied, which I can't imagine is ever going to happen because we do fractional scoring, and you're looking at overall points for the whole season. The odds of that being tied are extremely slim. If those are tied, the next tiebreaker is divisional record. In case that ever comes up, that's what it is. I don't think that's ever going to come up.
if
I
that
really can't
ties,
imagine it.
well, fuck.
If that ties as well, I'm gonna flip a coin. I guess I don't even know what else to do.
We'll have to go to a vote and what to do. Yeah.
We'll have a drinking contest or something like that.
Ooh, I like it.
So the rest is actually a pretty darn close toss up. Besides Jim, who's at 7-0, and Ashley, who is at 2-5, everyone else in the league is either at 4-3 or 3-4 right now. So it's extremely tight. So no one should feel like their season's over. Not even Ashley. I mean, you're literally 2 games back from being in second place. It's a good season so far. Everyone's trading wins except for you, son of a bitch. Lose a
Hey,
game, god damn it.
getting kind of lonely up here.
Yeah, you're only 3 games up on everybody else. Well,
7 games of the season, that's quite a bit.
uh,
I was actually shocked when I read this. I was like, "Wow, there's only 4-3 teams." I thought someone had like a 5-2 record.
no,
And I looked, I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right." That I can pretty much coast to the playoffs now. But yeah, it doesn't matter until you make it to the playoffs. I mean, we've seen teams before make it to the playoffs that look amazing and then they throw duds. So
yep.
still
All it
got to
takes
try.
is one bad game on the wrong week, and it's all over.
Yep, I would have lost to most people this week. I think so.
So yeah, currently, Richard would advance as the only other 4-3 team that's not already qualified. So 3 people that won their divisions. The 2 of them are 4-3. Richard's the only other 4-3 team, so he would get in by being the best record. So then it goes to the next best record, which are all 3-4. So we just go to the highest points of all the 3-4 teams. This one goes to Tiff. She has 798 points scored. And the last spot just goes to the highest score points scored total. So we said this one would actually go to Lee at 791.88 points. So the guy who was 0-4 to start the season would currently be making the playoffs if we did it today. So congrats to Lee. That's why you don't give up. Keep playing.
Yeah. And he made a good trade, and I don't know if it's necessarily helped him because that trade wasn't really the best. But I think right now he's probably feeling pretty good about that trade with the Dolphins bringing Tua back. So I mean,
Yeah.
he's in a good position. He got Mixon back, like we said, a lot of injuries. That was the reason why he went 0-4. But now those guys are coming back; they're healthy, and you're starting to see his team really start to take off. So yeah, never give up.
Yeah. Shit can change fast. So yeah, that's the way too early playoff picture. If you're in, congrats. If you're not, keep fighting. Plenty of time left. Like I said, it's extremely tight across the board. No
Well, you just
one's,
said everyone's 4-3, 3-4. Every
yeah.
week, everyone but me is going to change in the playoffs. This is what's going to happen. You're going to see 5 new people pretty much every week until
Hmm.
someone really starts to pull ahead. So yeah, keep going, keep being aggressive, make trades, pick up free agents. This is a marathon, not a single race.
Yeah. And like I said, too, I mean, one big week of points, too. The points aren't that wildly spread either. So one good game where you drop 150, it can put you into the point spot easily. A couple of them will almost secure it. But yeah, that's the playoffs. It's that time in the show where I pop in to say thanks for listening to the first half. Tune in for the second half. We'll go over the fab, the injuries, and the matchup recap. Thanks for listening, and talk to you soon. Bye.